My name is Frerichs. I want to take this opportunity to tell you how I feel about our nation's war in Iraq. In addition to the obvious, the killing and maiming of our men and women and our armed services, it is a war, by everyone's account, that is depleting our nation's treasury, overextending and exhausting our nation's military capabilities, multiplying the number of jihad Islamic terrorists that seek to harm us, and damaging our nation's reputation and standing in the world. It is a war that has diverted our attention from our war in Afghanistan. Osama bin Laden is still at large. From time to time, he still thumbs his nose at us. The Taliban is making a comeback in Afghanistan. Those are the terrorists who attacked us on 9/11. No Iraqi was involved in 9/11. Then how did we get into a war in Iraq? In the aftermath of 9/11, we were told that Iraq had weapons of mass destruction, which made it necessary for us to go to war in Iraq in order to preempt the possibility of those weapons being used against us here in this country. We were told that there was a link of complicity between Iraq's dictator Saddam Hussein and the al-Qaeda terrorists that attacked us on 9/11. We were told we couldn't wait for final proof of Iraq's possession of WMDs because that proof could come in the form of a mushroom cloud. We were told the war would be brief, a matter of months. Make no mistake about it. It was either deliberate lies or a reckless disregard for the truth that got us into the war in Iraq. Just 40 days after we invaded Iraq, our commander-in-chief declared that all major combat operations in Iraq had ended. Remember his photo op on the aircraft carrier? That was 4 years ago. 4 years later, our military is still at war in Iraq. 4 years later, we know that there was no need for our starting a preemptive war in Iraq. Iraq had no WMDs for us to preempt. 4 years later, we know there was no credible evidence linking the secular Hussein and the Islamic al-Qaeda. 4 years later, what was supposed to be a brief war of preemption has morphed into a war of occupation, a war that has proven far more deadly than our brief war of preemption, and which has already lasted longer than our nation's participation in World War II. 4 years later, our military's mission is not one of preempting the use of WMDs. 4 years later, our military's mission is that of an occupying army. 4 years later, its mission is to keep Iraqis from killing each other in their sectarian civil war involving grievances between them that date back 1,400 years. 4 years later, our commander-in-chief is touting a military tactic called a surge, a strategy which he claims is new to our war in Iraq and that carries with it a possibility of our winning. The surge is nothing more than another military escalation of our war in Iraq. We have had many such escalations in the last 4 years. They were initiated under the slogan, "Stay the course." The so-called surge is a military escalation just like all the others we have previously tried. Just big enough not to lose our war of occupation, but too small to win that war. Albert Einstein defined insanity as doing the same thing over and over again, but expecting different results. How much longer are we going to let our commander-in-chief continue our insane war in Iraq in his quest for victory? Why haven't we stopped him? And this is the point of my commentary. Why we haven't stopped this insanity. I believe it is because 98% of us are exempt from the consequences and sacrifices of our war in Iraq. We were assured that Iraq's oil would more than pay our cost of the war. In terms of money, it would cost us nothing. When it became apparent that this was not to be, we were given tax cuts when our cost of this war is now conservatively estimated to be in excess of $500 billion and counting. As to who of us is doing the fighting and dying in our war of occupation in Iraq, the truth is, for 98% of us, someone else is doing the fighting and dying in Iraq. Only members of our military and their families, the remaining 2% of us, have made sacrifices in this insane war. It is their lives that have been disrupted. It is their blood that is being spilled. They are the ones suffering debilitating physical and mental health. It is their arms, their legs, their very lives that have been sacrificed for the cause of our insane war of occupation in Iraq. We and the 98% division of us have not been required to make any sacrifice for the war. That is the truth why we have not stopped our war of occupation in Iraq. For 98% of us, we are not involved. It is someone else's war to fight and die in. That is the truth. That is the truth why our insane war of occupation goes on, with no end in sight and with no good options for ending it. My name is Frerichs, and this has been my commentary.